Today on Parts Hold, we have an amazing topic for you. We are going to talk about the 5 fatal flaws of parts managers. We are also going to talk a little bit about Cliff's new venture in the Chris Collins workspace, and we're going to chat a little bit about the upcoming event happening at Chris Collins headquarters in about a month. So that and much, much more coming up today on Parts Hold.
Here to fill the order.
Hello, Cliff. How are you today?
If I were any better, I'd be twins.
And that still has yet to be scientifically proven that you're not twins. But something really exciting, and just to give context to this, so Cliff has worked for me for a year and a half. It's gone fast, hasn't it?
Almost 2.5.
See, I told you it's gone fast. 2.5 years Cliff has been here. So he's working on his 3rd year since the days of Corona and his shorts. But we recently had a thing that I've kind of been fighting, but it came up twice. It was twice in 2 weeks for sure that this request came up, and I'd had them before, and I'd kind of relented because, just to give you a little background on what Cliff does for Chris Collins, is he's a coach. So he travels around and he does an amazing job working with service departments, even though he's a parts guy, working with service departments and fixing service departments. And now typically what happens when we go in and we do coaching with a store, the main focus is on the service department. And I would always say, wouldn't you, Cliff, that parts kind of comes along for the ride? You get to dabble in it with your stores a little more than some of the other coaches, but in general, the direct focus is on the service department. So we had a client reach out to us. It was funny. It was a client and then a prospect within 2 weeks of each other say, "Hey, what do I have to do to get Cliff into my parts room?" Which was phenomenal. And then we always call, when we go and we visit the service department, we call it a live and drive, or internally, we call it a lid. And lid is just like saying diag to a customer, so we don't really say that to our customers very often. But what we just did is we now have used Cliff for a lip.
It's exciting to have lips.
So Cliff has got some lips to do. And why don't you tell us a little bit about that, sir?
I'm super excited to get into the store and have an opportunity to spend some time in the parts department.
What does LIPS stand for?
Live in parts.
Live in parts. So Cliff is going live in parts. If anybody out there has ever thought, oh my gosh, I need some help in my parts department, let us know, and maybe I can sell Cliff to you. That sounds terrible.
That does sound terrible, but maybe they need some lips.
But we'll hook you up with some lips. So tell me, when you get to the parts department, one, I think it's really kind of cool because aren't you going to do a couple of parts departments in a 1 week time? Is kind of like your plan?
Yep, they have 4 stores there in town, and so I think we're going to try to do all 4 stores for the whole week, and
then 2 days at the biggest one or whatever.
Yeah, I think so. I'm kind of going to let the operations guy kind of set that up as far as which one he deems that we want to spend more time focusing in on. But they've got a group parts director. We're going to look at some wholesale stuff. We're going to dive into the inventory, maybe hit on some matrices, maybe dabble in the matrices a little bit.
Probably looking at ordering, SOP, some processes. The guy that runs that fixed operations for the group is a sharp fella. And he texted me and he's like, yeah, I need to give my parts department some loving. And I thought that was a funny way to inject, like, you might be the first ever automotive heartthrob. Like, you're the Joey Lawrence of parts departments.
Yes. Well, there's probably a ton of people that don't know who Joey Lawrence is,
Oh, okay. So you're the
but I could be Brad Pitt of the parts department.
well, let's not get crazy. I'm willing to concede that you might be like the Harry Styles of the parts department.
I don't know about that. What? Well, so a good question is, do any of them have action figures? The answer
Well,
is no.
I could never imagine you missing a chance to plug that. But let's not forget that Yoda also had an action figure, Cliff.
Shamelessly plugged. Nonetheless, it is.
Is it shamelessly plugging, or is it worse the fact that I've looked into mass production of that stupid action figure?
So 100% I have to. It is terrible that I'm trying to figure out how can I create one. And really, maybe I just need just a head to stick on like a GI Joe body.
I want a couple of hundred of these things. So our big event is coming up October 20th and 21st out here in Los Angeles. It's our Top Dog event, and we've got our clients are coming out: service managers, parts managers, owners, general managers. We've got some amazing speakers lined up. There's going to be a bunch of like if you really want to get like that. Let's take it to the next level kind of couple of days. The Top Dog is always it, but it comes at such a great time in October before you kind of wrap up, the end of the year and start the new year. But, we're always looking at like, what can we give the guest for coming? And number one on my list is Cliff Honeycutt action figures.
Hey, you know what I was thinking about just now? Just had a kind of a brainstorm here, but there's a gentleman that has a 3D printer that you and I know that listens to this show that could hook us up if he so chose.
Where is this person located?
Canada.
Is he on the west side of Canada?
Oh, I don't know the answer to that. That's tricky because I'm not 100% sure.
Okay, is he at a Mazda store in Canada?
I believe so.
Yeah, we should reach out.
I believe he created a stormtrooper mask,
He did.
and I think he could create this if he reached out to us. You know my email address.
We need you, Kurt. We need you. Let me know. I can send you. Yeah, I can send you two-dimensional samples, and you just need to 3D print it for us. Oh my gosh, this is the best thing ever. Um,
It's going to be awesome. And our staff won't know what to do because of how much of a nuisance I am with like all this thing. If I get my action figure produced, it's going to be out of control.
it's already hard to manage. The funny, well, remember last Top Dog how you were fresh into the podcasting at that moment in time. So you might have played up the fact that you'd been on a podcast, and I thought that was just genius. But the action figure might send it over the edge.
We might for
But
sure need an autograph booth.
oh my gosh, I don't know what I'm going to do with you, Cliff. Okay, well, enough of that. So, looking forward to Top Dog. If you aren't registered already, make sure you get that way because we only have a few spots left. We have limited seating available for this thing, and we filled up really, really fast. And there's a couple of spots left. So, if you're interested, let us know. And we'll probably talk about all things parts and more. Last year, I would say that so we split into these like small group activities, and we had so many parts managers that parts managers had their own group, and I would say that was by far, Cliff, I think the most engaging conversations. Now you ran those discussions, and I thought that was just absolutely phenomenal. But it's great how into it the parts managers get, right?
Well, I think their ability, sometimes they're hidden and we say that they don't have talent, but there's some ultra talented guys out there, super talented parts managers out there that have some great ideas that need a platform. And this is an opportunity for them to come be a part of something super special and unique, a unique experience that's amazing that will rejuvenate them. And it doesn't just have to be about parts, but those parts guys are, I think the talent they bring to the table and their ideas are something we've hidden too much.
I love it. Yeah. So those people that we're going to talk about today are not included in this discussion. So those forward thinkers and the great leaders and all the things that, I mean, general managers are going to be coming out of the parts room in the next couple of years. But today we are going to talk about fatal failures of parts managers. Fatal failures of parts managers. I want you all to kind of take some notes, write the 5 things down that Cliff is going to go over, and if I would say, Cliff, I don't know what you think. If you find yourself identifying with more than 2 of these things, you might need to rethink your life.
Yeah, I think some of them, it's possible some feelings may get hurt, but if they do, that's the person I would probably say, hey, you might want to take a deeper look.
And it's not too late, right?
No, I think it's never too late. No, it's never too late. And, the reality is that some of these individuals don't do all of these. There might just be one or, 2 of them that they're, some of these guys are doing. Because we go in, I mean, how many stores have we gone into over our career? And
782.
I'm glad you
Was
kept
that a
track of them.
rhetorical question?
I wouldn't know exactly the number that I've gone into, but
It's been a lot.
I might go home 431.
I don't think it's been that many.
No, it hasn't. But 431 times for sure. But there's a lot of people that we see these things and see these traits that they could easily get fixed.
Yeah, I think everything in here, it's not a condemnation. So what is the number one fatal failure of a parts manager, Cliff?
The number one fatal failure is management by walking around.
Okay, is this something that they do or don't do? What's the failure? Is the failure doing it or the failure not doing it?
No, the failure is not doing it, not getting out of their office. They kind of find themselves, I think you affectionately called it seatbelt, locked into place. They don't leave their office. They sit in there and run random reports all day and look at Lord knows what and answer emails and like just take some time to get out of your office and walk around the department.
How do you know what's going on if you're not looking, right?
Yeah, we talked about previously that you, me, have walked into multiple parts departments and looked around, and just we can kind of see what's going on just by walking around. And I think there's a lot of managers out there that would find out a lot of things that are going on, excuse me, by walking around.
Going around, you make it sound like a disease.
Yeah. Well, so there is a disease of not getting out of your office. I mean, if you want to play on that, there's definitely a disease of not getting out of your office and walking into the warehouse or, saying good morning to the crew or your team, inspecting your vans, walking through the shop, like all kinds of things. But I think walking around.
Yeah, there's plenty of places to go, right?
Yeah, walking around is a key to management.
Okay, I love it. All right, so the fatal failure is that sometimes parts managers are wearing their seatbelt in their office. Okay, what's number 2? I feel like this is a cousin.
No vision.
Okay.
No vision. They don't have a vision of what they want to become personally or professionally.
Well, that's not entirely their fault because I also think that most parts manager offices, in addition to maybe not having any vision, they also have no windows.
I would agree with that. No way to see out or what's going on.
So if you refer back to number 1, if you don't have windows, don't wear your seatbelt. Get up and go around.
Yeah, get up and walk around. Yeah, walk around. But in the end, how many people have we talked to recently that have gone from the fixed side of it, whether it be service or parts, and become GMs?
Several from our elite group in the last 18 months.
So the vision for me is personally, where's the next step? What chair do you want to switch to? How do you want to see yourself in 5 years and 10 years? And I also think that a lot of times that goes into personal too, because most of the time, if you don't have a vision professionally, there's not a personal vision either.
So what do you think is the cause of that?
I think I think it's just it goes back to number one, getting locked in, seatbelted in. You're down doing tasks all day. You're just managing to get by. You just don't want to get fired. Instead of having a real passion and vision for growth and setting yourself up for opportunities, you're in control of your own destiny with
Yeah,
vision.
but I think at the end of the day, don't you think that's the industry too? Like, the truth is that when you're working, when you're working on stock or get to the counter, like the last stop on that bus is parts manager. For the longest time, no one saw that there was a spot beyond parts manager. So I think the industry's probably let parts managers down, that they thought that they got to the end that way. And then all the things that you said, like trying not to get fired and all that, not get noticed, all those things play into effect when they think that they're at the top of their mountain. The truth is that there's a mountain right next to them they can go climb. So I think that that's up to us to make sure that we're reminding parts managers that they're systematic people. Typically, they're really organized. They've got a good understanding of like ins, outs, and way more understanding about inventory management. At the end of it, the numbers and the data, to where it's almost an easier transition to being a general manager from being a parts manager, because you're always looking at the input output. Whereas if I'm going from a salesperson to a sales manager and I'm just closing deals, I don't know how to run a dealership. But you can make a really strong case that the parts manager is probably one of the number one candidates when you look at skill sets.
Well, when you think about it, if you were just to base it off of our masterclass, our boot camps that we've done, who's some of the most talented guys in there as far as grabbing the numbers really, really quick and grabbing an understanding of the numbers?
Yeah, the homeless people.
Wow.
Oh, I'm sorry. You meant inside the room, not outside on the streets
Yes.
of Los Angeles?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, the parts managers for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. So they have a
I
complete
really threw you
understanding of
for a
the
loop
business.
there, didn't
You
I?
did. Yeah. Like, well, the homeless thing threw me off really. Yeah.
That was so fun.
Yeah. You didn't even need to throw a joke in there. Like I was waiting for something. Um,
I've got jokes. I just can't tell them on the air. All right. So no windows, no vision is what we're gonna call number two. All right.
yes.
We're up to number three.
Number three is the world against me attitude.
Oh, so there's a couple of layers to that, right?
Yeah, there becomes, I think, as a parts department, we often become a silo and we often create our own silo, and sales is against us, and service is against us, and wholesale customers are against us, and retail's not doing us any favor. And then there's the whole internet thing.
That's great. What's the truth?
I'm in control of all of that.
Yeah, that all of those can be assets. They don't have to be. They don't have to be adversaries.
Yeah, it becomes, you know, a cultural thing too. Like there's no culture in there. They've got no systems. They've got no pathways. They've got nothing. Um, and so they believe that everybody's against them. They have this own preconceived notion.
The worst thing is that it's almost a guarantee though. If the parts manager feels like the world's against them, the parts employees, they just adopt that personality from the parts manager.
Completely agree. That starts at the top and trickles down everywhere, every time.
That's a good one to have on this list.
The flip side of that is it goes the other way too. If the parts manager is super engaged and super passionate about being a part of everything and changing their mindset, realizing that they have a competitive edge, like all the things that set somebody up for success, that trickles down as well.
Yeah, that's great. I love it. So we're getting close to the end of our list. So what is number four?
Number four is my people are bad. Those parts managers that believe that their whole team, I just got a bad team. I don't have a good counter person. My delivery driver is horrible. My shipping and receiving guy doesn't even know how to spell shipping. Like all the things.
Yeah, so I always remember the famous Dave Anderson quote in that situation. I remember being in a room. It's been, good Lord, 7 years since I heard him say this, but I was taking notes, listening to Dave talk, and he said the following thing that I still think I've written down in a notebook, encircled in big letters. He said, "If your people suck, you suck." There's nowhere to run. There's nowhere to run from with that quote, right? But the truth is if you think that your people are terrible and they're awful, well, they're your people. So the buck has to start with stop with the leader. And there's two things. One is if you don't like the people that are working for you, they're your responsibility, and then you have to hold them to the standard that would make them do the things you need to do, or you need to replace them and get people that follow what your vision is. But I would guess that that's way more a leadership issue than an employee issue, because I truly believe this. I don't know if you think this or not, but I believe people don't come to work to suck at their job. I believe people come to work because there's the whole taking care of their family and everything like that. But I truly believe there's some sort of satisfaction out of saying, okay, I did a good thing today. And like most people don't want to come to work and just do something and then leave and feel empty at the end of the day. And I would encourage everyone to at least try to have some sort of a purpose besides getting a paycheck when it comes to your career. But I think a lot of people come into the parts departments wanting to do a good thing at first. And there's just the leadership at the end of the day can distract you from that goal.
It's funny to me because I think one of the things that I find overwhelmingly in a scenario this that people would say my people are bad is they have no accountability for their people. They've set up no accountability system. And alongside of that, and the close partner with that is they don't recruit. Like they're not looking for people. They're not recruiting. And so I won't recruit because I won't hold people accountable and I won't.
Yeah, they've got low expectations of the people coming in, and then they're disappointed when they don't hit expectations. Yeah.
And most of the time, the counter people don't even know what the expectations are.
So that was what I was going to say, is that I would guess that in most of these cases where everybody thinks their people are bad, they haven't given them a scoreboard by which to tell them what makes them winning. Like, how do they get an A on their report card?
Yeah, I would have it on a whiteboard in the office.
Yeah, you can't expect somebody to be on the honor roll if you don't tell them the grading system.
Yeah, it's great.
Cool. All right, we got one more.
Last one is they all have a need to be right.
Boy, I know a couple of people like that.
Yeah, I just I think of it. So the thing that stands out to me on this is what kind of stirred this up.
Yeah, because you identified symptoms, right? Symptoms of I want to be right.
Yep, I was at a store and they just wouldn't go get the part.
Okay, so give me the example, build context to it.
So they came up and I believe it was an oxygen sensor, as best I remember, at the store, and parts didn't have it. I can about guarantee you they didn't track loss sell on it, but they didn't have the part and they wouldn't go anywhere else.
Okay, so they didn't look for alternate sourcing. They didn't look to see if it was another dealer. They just said, we don't have it. We can order it. It'll be here in 3 days. What do you want to do? Am I getting that right?
Absolutely. You know what hurts me the most in that scenario is, well, number one, the parts department thinks that somehow they have control over this item and they got the power. And so now that they're out to get the tech in a sense. I don't know if you've ever experienced that, but that's exactly what this scenario played out in front of me. They believed they were getting the tech or the advisor, but you know who really suffered out of it?
The customer.
The customer. The customer suffered out of it because their car is the one that's broke down and their kids are not going to be able to go to practice, or they're not going to be able to make their kids' games, or they're not going to be able to go to work. We didn't think about anything other than I have control. I'm right. No one else has it. Like it's just such an unfair thing.
Yeah, for sure. It's definitely not customer focused. So what are the 3 main symptoms of I want to be right? What are the things that are messed up?
Well, the number one is they want to be right and they're not looking to win.
Yeah. So like, would a lost sales report tell you that they're
Oh,
trying to be right?
yeah. So if we're going into a store and looking at that,
Yep.
absolutely, no lost sales. I'm trying to overthink the computer generated or manufacturer generated program. I'm trying to
Okay. So
overthink the
automatic
computer.
stock replenishment. Got it.
Yep, I'm trying to outthink that. And then I think it comes down to a control thing in a lot of cases.
Yeah. So everything has to go through me. That means I need to be right about everything. And then a lot of times, I don't know if you've noticed it, but I've seen a thing where I need to be right really means I'm really worried about being wrong. That I feel like I can't make a mistake.
Well, I was going to say one of the things that I've overwhelmingly running into with that I need to be right is I just don't want to get fired.
Yeah, so they're worried if they make one little tiny mistake, they're going to get fired. Now, I don't know about you. I've been around for a little while, and usually when someone gets fired, is it because they did one thing wrong?
No, it's rare unless it's something monumental. It's very, very rare.
Yeah, like if you run over someone, like they don't like that, giving you a
Well,
second shot at that. But in general, most mistakes that a parts manager might make, in a lot of cases, are super forgivable unless they're a pattern. Um, and I would also make the case, I don't know what you think. I think that sometimes those failures and mistakes are the best teachers.
I could go into a long story of a very costly mistake I made early on in my career that I didn't get fired about. That was a lot of money. And I could tell you about multiple times about getting yelled at about sticky notes.
Oh, that's
So
funny.
yeah, so the thing that you're saying is it depends on the situation and what's going on, but if there's a learning element to it and it's not intentional, it's very rare.
That's exactly right. Good stuff. Well, why don't you, for all those people that are taking notes, let's just recap this one more time. What are the 5 fatal failures of parts managers?
5 fatal failures. Number one is I will not walk around and manage. So a failure to walk around and manage. Number two is no vision. Number three is it's a world against me attitude. Number four is my people are bad. And that number five falls in everything there is I just want to be right.
What a great list. Fatal failures. Fatal failures. So I really like that. What a fun conversation, Cliff. So enjoy your time in the parts rooms that you're going to visit and make a huge impact on. And I know that you're going to bring a breath of fresh air into those parts rooms, and they're going to be super grateful to have you. And then we'll see everybody next time on Parts Hold.
Here to fill the order.